exactly as you said, Mimi. The problem is that we need to break borders in order to enable the analysis of all of the data that are required for us to analyze in order to actually accelerate the cures. And particularly was discussed a little bit. There are three major obstacles right now slowing down rare diseases diagnosis and treatment, right? The number one is everything that Petros has been trying to do with the first steps, which is the genetic screening. Like we simply need to screen more babies at the stage that they are just born in order to understand if there is a rare disease. And there is not enough that genetic screening at the newborn stage or even later at life. The second problem is that we need to be moving into, for especially these rare diseases, something called database diagnosis rather than symptom-based diagnosis, right? Right now you go to the doctor and, Terry gave this, beautiful story where he was saying that all they were measuring the head basically of the child, and that was a symptom that was not growing, or basically that how strong he was at pulling up his head, or be able to actually perform different movements. That's all symptoms, and unfortunately that's not good enough in order to diagnose rare diseases. You need database diagnosis. And of course the third thing, again down to everything we've heard already so far and we're going to hear later on, is then manufacturing the right drugs for the right person. Like, unfortunately, generic drugs will just not make it happen. And what Lifebit's actually focusing is the second one. How can we actually ensure that we can actually move the entire medicine from symptom-based to data-based? And of course, data is what it's required for us to be able to do everything from not just diagnosis, but then also biomarker discovery, pathway analysis, patient stratification, and everything within the umbrella of precision medicine. And the good news is that a lot of this data is out there already. Like we do have many big programs across the world that have been generating this data, and they have the ability to even generate more of this data. So the bad news is about 97% of this data is really not accessible or usable. Why? Because of all of the regulatory reasons, but as well as the way this data has been actually stored. So a lot of this data is obviously very sensitive. So because it's patient data, and a lot of times, of course, it's children data, right? So it's very sensitive. So, and they do not live in systems, unfortunately, that can breach security and usability. Those systems tend to be very limited in the ability that you have in order to analyze this data, query this data. And of course, a lot of this data is in very much raw formats, so has not been actually standardized, made usable, linked with all of the clinical data, all of the genetic data, all of the lifestyle data, if we have even that data together. So the answer to this and a lot of these problems is federation. And the federation basically is a technology that allows us to bring advanced compute and querying data, basically analysis and querying capabilities where the data live in their secure, let's say, regulated government environments, hospital environments, pharma environments, without actually needing to take the data away, so that we can actually query, analyze the data, and just the only thing that we can take away are the learnings of that. And again, what Lifebit has been doing, and this is kind of like a slide that can actually show you, Lifebit right now is powering the large number of these programs, or the largest number of these programs, around many different public sectors. And some of those I named before: Genomics England, NIH, Singapore with the Trust program, but as well as many different data providers, right, where you have a lot of health non-for-profits, like, for example, LRA, the Lupus Research Alliance, right, and the Cancer Genetic Study, as well as different pharma and biotechs. And just as a very quick view, I appreciate this is not a technology conference, but effectively what this allows us is, and you asked for storage, basically what this allows us is to control and deploy a very secure, but at the same time, very cost-effective technology to better basically organize the data on the storage systems where the data live right now, and as well deploy compute over this data. Again, this is very safe and very cost effective. And of course, very scalable because the platform is able to operate these different two sides without actually moving the data and taking the data away, right? And Lifebit, of course, provides all of that technology with three major solutions being like automating that data basically, so that the data is a data automation solution, as we call it, so that we can really manage it and organize the data in the ways that are needed and make it usable, so that then we can actually do discovery over the data, so we can very quickly identify which are the right data for the right patients, the right diseases, and then perform a class of different analytics on top of this data, being it for more clinical application, for more research application, for more drug discovery identification, uh, yeah, drug discovery identification, or for more kind of like actually surveillance purposes to be able to monitor drug side effects or disease outbreaks, as an example. And now what we are seeing is a lot of the way the different data consumers, like the big pharma, are trying to actually access this data and make use of this data is exactly like that. One of the pioneering examples is definitely Boehringer Ingelheim, which has one of the, I would say, largest federated networks right now, tapping into many governments and many basically public programs of data sets in a secure manner. Again, the data never goes to the pharma, but that allows them to actually conduct all of the research over the data. And this is what we, as I said, this is what makes it sustainable, cost effective, scalable, and more importantly for all of the governments and the patients, regulatory compliant and secure. Thank you.